Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Ring Diaries here on Church of Uganda Family TV with me, Fiona Mboa, every Wednesday 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. This evening we are going to have a discussion about the legalities of anything that concerns the marriage institution, and I want us to understand some of the things. Is your marriage legal? Is it not legal? What is even a legal marriage if there was ever such a thing? What types of marriages are legal and which ones are not? And with me to discuss such a topic is Mr. Luteeta. Mikka. You're
Mr.
very welcome.
Mikka, thank you.
Just for our viewers, just introduce yourself so that we're able to know who you are.
Okay, thank you. I'm Luteeta Mikka, a lawyer by profession. I think I'm closing into 17 years experience as an advocate of the High Court.
Okay.
I'm legally married.
Okay. How long have you been married?
I've been married for 15 years.
For 15 years.
Yes.
Your wife must
Christian
be
marriage.
a calm woman.
Oh, yeah.
Because lawyers are known to be... Okay. Lawyers...
They're known for being rude.
Not rude, but you're always right. And in marriage, one thing I've learned is you can never be right.
That's very true. But one thing which has... by the way, I'm married to one Yuda and Nakato.
Okay.
And we have 4 kids.
Wow.
Kids. Yeah, one thing which has helped me in the 15 years of marriage is that I leave my being a lawyer in office and I walk into my home as a husband.
So at home there is no lawyer?
At home there is no lawyer.
Even in a discussion or in an
Even
argument?
in a discussion, I try as much as possible to avoid it.
Okay.
Yeah, at the home, I want to be the best husband.
Oh, interesting.
Because my wife is not a lawyer.
That's what I was wondering. I can imagine being married to a lawyer would always be in, this one, now this one, this, and wanting to win the case.
Yeah, true.
So what other thing has helped you stay married for 15 years?
Of course, there are other things which have helped me through the 15 years. And then one thing which I can talk about is the fact that I realize that when you're getting married to a person, you're getting married to a person whom you don't know about.
Definitely.
And this is a person whom you've seen in your old age. And of course, given the fact that you've met this person in your old age, he or she definitely has positives and negatives.
Definitely.
And when you get together, you take them in as a whole.
The positive.
You
and
take
negative.
the positives and negatives.
Okay.
So if your wish was to have someone with 10 things and they probably have 5, rejoice in the 5, and then God will help you with the remaining 5. As simple as that.
So concentrate on the positive.
You concentrate on the positives. The negatives, you will walk along with the person in the marriage.
Okay. Interesting. And I am sure there are very many other things that have helped you, but what I've liked is the fact that at home you're not a lawyer.
True.
At home I'm a husband.
Yes.
So you leave anything to do with law outside and come in as a husband.
Exactly. At home I'm a husband. At home I'm a dad. At home I'm basically that lean person without any legalities. I try as much as possible to be that. Usually the reason as to why some people have issues is because they consider themselves instead of considering the people they stay with.
Okay.
It is important for you to sacrifice self for the happiness of others. Okay. If you want a marriage to work, sometimes you have to sacrifice self. Forget about your professionalism, that I'm a lawyer, I'm qualified in this, I've handled these cases, and then you listen to the other party. You listen to your wife, you give your children time, and then you move along.
There's no prosecutor and defender.
Yeah, you don't look at your wife as a prosecutor, as a suspect, and you're suspecting each and everything. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay.
It will wear her out.
Definitely, I can imagine.
Yeah,
But
true.
so getting into the legalities around marriage, for our viewers, I want us to know, first of all, what are legal marriages? What are the legal marriages in Uganda?
Thank you very much. Of course, the number of marriages in Uganda, for today I'll limit myself to around 4 or 5.
Okay.
Number one, we have what we call Christian marriages. Now, Christian marriages are those which necessitate one to go and meet the parents of the wife to be.
Okay.
As in, you are introduced, and then the parents recognize you and give you a certificate, a traditional certificate, and thereafter you go to church
For another certificate.
for another certificate from church, meaning that the marriage has ceased from being a traditional one and it has become a church marriage. And one thing we have to note in Christian marriages is that they are of a monogamous nature. One man, one woman.
That is the church marriage.
That is the church marriage.
But
That
the
is-
traditional marriage.
Yes. And then the second type of marriage are what we can refer to as traditional marriages. Traditional marriages basically rotate around payment of dowry or bride price, whereby you go and meet the parents of the lady and you give their gifts. They recognize you as the husband and issue you with a certificate. And then one thing a person has to note when it comes to the traditional marriages is that they are potentially polygamous. Potentially polygamous meaning that the husband is free to go and get introduced by another woman.
So before we go to the third type, you
Yes,
said
please.
the Christian marriage has the traditional part,
Yes.
and then they're going to church.
They're going to church, yes.
So it is potentially polygamous until you go to church, and then it becomes monogamous.
That's true.
Then the traditional marriage, it's just potentially polygamous.
Yeah, it's potentially polygamous.
So as a woman, if I've introduced this man, can I also introduce another man?
Of course, culturally, a woman is not protected. It's not protected. Culture puts it in a way that men have an upper hand when it comes to issues of marriage. But even a woman, if she wants it that way, she can do it. But what will society say when it comes to that? It goes
Against
back to
everything.
society, and they will begin looking at that woman in a weird way. But there is no writing concerning that. It is potentially polygamous, and people are free to go and get other people.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what are the types of marriages?
Of course, we have the third type of marriage, which we have Indian marriages, Hindu marriages. At least we all know that we have Ugandans of Indian origin.
Yes.
And they are respected under the Constitution of Uganda. They are free to enter into their marriage setups as Indians.
Okay.
And there is a law to that effect. And then the fourth type of marriage we have in Uganda are the Muslim marriages.
Okay.
Muslim marriages, Mohammedan law. They are covered under the Muslim, and they are covered under the Mohammedan law. So Muslims are free to go ahead and marry 4 women. Yes.
Okay. And for purposes of our viewers today, I want us to concentrate on the 2 that we started with. And
Right.
already you have brought up so many issues in my head that I'm trying to understand. So legally speaking, we've said we have the Christian marriage
Yes.
that has both introduction and then the church wedding.
True.
Then we have the traditional marriage. So we've had a lot of issues where people are saying church marriages are not legal. What causes such a thing?
Yeah, actually, some church marriages are not legal. Why? These are some of the reasons which we can talk about.
Okay.
Number one, some churches in Uganda are not registered.
Okay.
And for any church to be recognized, it has to be registered.
So how do I know that this church is registered?
It is important for you to find out before you get married whether the church is registered or not. Walk to the church where you're going to have your ceremony from and inquire about its registration. Because you remember that we have different types of churches. We have the Catholic Church. Of course, those are known procedurally.
Yes.
There are procedures which are supposed to be followed
Before you start that church.
before you start the journey to getting married. And every Catholic setup has procedures. And then we have the Anglican setting, Anglican churches, and those are also registered.
Okay.
They are also registered. And then we have Balokole churches. Balokole churches. And most Balokole churches, they are limited to individuals. Limited to individuals, how? Because there is a pastor who happens to be the vision bearer.
Yeah.
So it is upon the vision bearer to make sure that he goes and registers the church. And then a church is supposed, after registration, to go through the process of getting a marriage certificate.
The marriage certificate for the church or for the individuals?
The marriage certificate for the church, there is a specific procedure which the church is supposed to follow in order to be allowed.
Or like a license to...
A license.
To wed people.
To wed people.
And that's different from the registration you talked about.
And that is different from the registration that I've talked about.
Okay.
Yes.
Do these churches know?
Some churches know, and I've done it for some churches.
Okay.
The procedure. Yes, the church. The first thing is that the church is supposed to be registered. Because there is no way you can go ahead with the procedure of getting a marriage license when you're not registered. Registered means that you're recognized under the laws of Uganda.
That is
you
going
get
to
recognition.
URSB.
Yes, going to URSB or going to, or you register the church as an NGO setup.
Okay.
Yes, and then thereafter you follow the procedures of getting a license of what? Of marriage. But our viewers may not be knowing that. Our viewers may not be knowing that. So for them, when it comes to the time of marriage, they just walk to
I want my pastor to wed me, the one who knows me personally. But then we forget that there is an element of this person.
Yeah, we forget that there is an element. What other pastors have done is that if he has not yet got a license of marriage, and you want him to wed you, you go to another church which has a license,
and he comes
and he will officiate.
So the license is for a church. Yes. A pastor can wed anywhere.
Yeah, a pastor can wed anywhere, just to officiate. The license is limited to the church.
Okay.
Not individuals.
So after I've got a church that is licensed and registered and has a certificate of marriage, and I'm married there, what procedure do I have to follow? Because some of us, you've been married 10 years and you actually don't have your legal certificate, you just have the church.
Yes.
Or does it even have an implication on anything?
No. After you've gone to a church which is registered and also has a license to marry people, it is important for you to follow up on your marriage certificate so that it is registered with URSB.
So me wedding from a church that is licensed is not enough.
It's not enough.
I need a certificate from you, I see.
Yes.
Why?
Recognizing under the laws. You know, these days we work with what we work with evidence.
Okay.
Yes. You are not just going to assume that because I got married from a church which is licensed, so it's all finished.
All good.
It is important for you to follow up on this certificate and make sure that it is registered, and then your marriage will be fully recognized in Uganda. Some churches do it actually for their people, the people they wed, but some do not. They stop at just issuing a certificate, and it is upon the couple to follow up on the what? On the full registration. And other churches, what they do, they every end of month, they can take the list of people who have gotten married from the churches, and then they are registered. But there are those which are reluctant.
Yes, a couple friend of ours realized 10 years later that actually the church didn't register the marriage. So that's why I was asking, is it upon me or upon the church to actually have this marriage registered?
It is dependent on the individuals, mainly dependent on the individuals.
So I need to go an extra mile and confirm that my marriage has actually been registered.
Very true.
Okay, now that my marriage is registered, how we've gone through all the steps, and now I've confirmed my marriage is registered. As an individual in this marriage, what are the simple legalities that come up in this marriage? What protection does it bring for me to be legally married?
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, I'm persuaded to believe that you're limiting yourself to Christian marriages.
Yes, I'm limiting myself to Christian marriages for the sake of our viewers.
Okay. Now, the first protection which you get, actually for both the husband and wife, is that, just like I said, Christian marriages or church marriages are of a monogamous nature.
Okay.
So under the law, you are supposed to be one man, one woman.
Under the law.
Under the law. It's supposed to be one man, one woman. So there is that protection you've got, that your husband cannot just go and get another woman. And your wife cannot just go and enter into another marriage setup. If any does that, then it becomes a ground for separation or divorce. And then secondly, the other right you get after a church marriage setup is that you get the right to property.
Okay.
The property of this individual you've got married to.
So both of us?
Yes, because just like it is stated in the Bible that the two shall become one. I mean, you've gotten married and you've become one. So what is his
is mine.
Becomes yours, and what is yours
is mine.
is also his.
Okay.
But sometimes it may be dependent on what you had at the time you are entering into the marriage.
That was actually my next question.
On what you had at the time you are entering into the marriage. Though there is usually a controversy that what if the lady finds me when I've already bought a piece of land, when I've already got a house, when I've already made, some money.
Isn't that mine? Like if I had my things before the marriage, are they mine or they all become this person I've married?
It all depends on the play of the parties, but legally, what is yours, what is in your names, if the properties were in your names and you get married to this person.
Everything.
Yes, everything joins up. Tewerekerayo byonna bijja on table and you own it up. Anti mufuse bafumbo mufuse omuntu omu. You
become. But there is this thing that people keep saying that what is legally ours is what we get going forward.
Byonna.
So even my inheritance from my father's father, I bring it and we own it together.
Kati kucha inheritance, it depends.
Okay.
Bwabanga tata yakuwa inheritance. Nga yo nga gwe mwali abaana nga mukaaga ne bagamba gwe iyo yeno onoli yiri kati gwe iyo gye wafuna ofumbibwa ono naye abaako ne share naye bwebanga inheritance eno temugigabanyanga ngeri joint awo nedda.
Wow. Okay. This is interesting.
Yeah.
So I get to have my husband to myself, I get property.
Yes.
What other thing do I gain from this legal marriage?
And then, of course, the other thing which you get is that when you get kids, the kids have a right to that property.
Okay.
They have the right to that property. And as kids, in case of your demise, in case you happen to die, they're entitled as beneficiaries to your properties. Remember, this is a church marriage setup, and indeed they are supposed to be the beneficiaries out of the marriage setup. And then the other thing, most so for the ladies, is that you get to own the husband's name. You get to own the husband's name. And usually, some ladies like it, others do not. That after the marriage, after the church marriage, and you are joined to the person, you can go ahead and change your names. You can even swear.
You actually have to change your name.
It's not a must. It depends on the parties.
But if I don't change my name, does it actually have an implication?
It doesn't have an implication.
Because I've seen people, actually that was my next question. I've seen people where you get married, but all my documents are in my name. Now changing them to Mboa becomes what? Like I'm thinking now I have to go back and all my certificates, all my job things have maybe Fiona Tukunda. And here you join to Mboa and you have to change to Fiona Mboa. So what are the benefits of changing my name to? For our viewers, not for, but what is the benefit of that?
Of course, changing your names to his is a cumbersome process. Because remember, you attained a number of documents in your name, and then you want his name to become part of your documents. So it's a lengthy process, but it is also important in a way.
How?
Of course, the importance is that you get to own the person. You get to own the person, the name. So that, for example, when you happen to get properties, usually properties are into your names, both your names.
Okay.
That is his and yours. And if you have adopted his name, God forbid, and he dies, they all know that this property belongs to the wife of the late. Even if your documents happen to disappear, even if the marriage certificate happens to disappear and you're looking for it and you don't see it, there is already evidence of his name. You're carrying his name. So there is evidence enough. But when you don't change your names, and then the marriage certificate disappears, and you literally have no evidence at all, you will have to
explanations.
You will have to give a lot of explanations in proof that you are the lady's what? Wife. So there is that legality that comes.
Okay. That I hope our viewers have, because that is a discussion that we keep having with many people who actually choose to stay with their names. Because we find it easy. Everyone knows me by Fiona at Kunda. Then when I start bringing in Fiona Mboa, things become... But that actually helps, and I hope our viewers have been able to understand.
And then the other benefit that comes with the name is the recognition bit.
Okay.
Recognition bit. You may find that your husband has killed enough lions. Enough lions meaning that he's authoritative. He's a known figure in the country.
That when I throw his name,
you throw his name, that I'm so and so, I'm Mrs. So and so,
it opens doors.
It opens doors for you.
Oh.
Instead of mentioning your name and they're like, who is she?
You have to explain yourself.
You have to explain yourself. But when you speak it before them, they'll be like, oh, wow, so she's the wife. Okay.
Well, the only problem is if he has killed bad lions, and everyone keeps... They don't want to associate with you.
Yeah, true.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luteeta. We're going to take a short break, and as we come back, we'll go more into the details of this legal marriage, this thing that we say we are married, but are we actually married?
Yeah.
Don't go away. This is Ring Diaries with me, Fiona Mboa. Welcome back. Still here at Ring Diaries on Church of Uganda Family TV with me, Fiona Mboa. And we are talking about the legalities in and about marriage, everything about marriage. And before we went for the break, Mr. Luteeta was telling us that we need to be able to follow up on our marriage certificates to make sure that we get the church one and also go ahead and get the one for the government. And before that, I was asking you who should follow up, but I think it is upon us to go ahead and see, okay, they've given even because for Anglican churches, I don't know how others do it. They even gave us that certificate on the wedding day. So I need to follow up and see that it was actually registered.
Yeah, true, actually. You know what is amazing about marriage is that it's the only institution you begin with a certificate.
They certify you before you start.
They certify you before you start. And usually there is that excitement that comes after you're issued with a certificate, and you forget about all other things, because remember, after that, people are warming up for the honeymoon.
We don't think about those things.
They don't think about the other procedures. They are thinking about where they are going to go for the honeymoon, and after the honeymoon, they enter into marriage.
Also, sometimes we lose those certificates on that day.
And sometimes the certificates are lost on that day. By the way, there are even some certificates I have at my home. I've been keeping them for the past 4 or 5 years.
What happened?
I was the chairperson of the weddings, but these people never bothered. Actually, it is me who is now supposed to look for them to give them their certificates.
So bottom line is somehow we do not think those things are important.
Yeah, somehow, and it is human nature actually. You get to appreciate something when you have a problem, but when everything is okay,
it's just a marriage certificate.
It's just a marriage certificate.
And people saw me get married. They even have photos.
Indeed.
Why do I need a marriage certificate?
Indeed. But it is important, even when you are given the certificate of marriage at that time, for you to follow up, either with the church authorities about registration of this marriage. And if the church authorities cannot help you in that, then you can go yourself and get it registered.
Okay.
And then you'll be done with that process.
So what happens if my marriage certificate has an error?
An error.
I've seen somewhere the name of the wife is not there. Maybe they put down for the matron. So in that instance, okay, for example, if my marriage certificate has my husband and my matron, they're the ones who got married, and yet in actual sense the names are wrong, what happens? Still I have to follow up and have that changed?
Yes, that is a change that can be done from the church authorities, because they are the ones who issued you with that. So that is a change which can be solved from there.
And what if it's on the actual government that certificate from the government.
Yeah, if it is on the actual certificate of government, then you'll have to follow it with URSP. Yes, and then there are procedures which you're supposed to follow for a change of that document.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Interesting conversation. And I'm hoping our viewers are learning a lot, because honestly, I'm learning a lot from you, Mr. Luteeta. Now that we just to back up a bit, we talked about traditional marriages. I've heard of women who actually just the introduction is done, and you say that is a legal marriage.
Yes.
But when maybe the husband, this person dies, they're actually not allowed to share property. Why?
Maybe just some history on traditional marriages.
Okay.
Most of our cultures are in a traditional setup, African traditional society, whereby families would just reach out to one another when the man is ready for marriage.
Okay.
Yes, you pay a visit to the other family, give them a few things or many things, and then you walk away with your wife.
Okay.
That is the traditional setup. Yeah, but with the legalities that have come in, that is why government thought it best that traditional marriages should be legalized. You may find that at some point in time, a letter was not necessary from the parents. People would just go and pay dowry. You visit the parents, and that is it. But with the laws in place, people have to protect each other's interests. That is why the letters came in. Letters for the parents.
So what makes this marriage binding is the letter from the parent?
No, the act of visiting. You visiting the parents, and they recognize you as the husband. That is the act. But in order for you to prove that recognition, you need evidential proof.
Pictures?
Pictures do not tell the whole story.
Okay. So we need that.
You need evidential proof that on such and such a day, these people came to my home, paid dowry, and we recognized them. Literally meaning that the parent has handed you his daughter.
So I've seen that done in Buganda, but I don't think I've seen it done elsewhere. What happens in such cultures where it's just pay dowry and come on the day, introduce your person and go?
No, as long as there are witnesses to that ceremony, such witnesses can be called in case of any eventuality, in case of any dispute. And if you did it and you are not issued with one, then you can go back and claim for one. Just you get a letter from an elder.
Just writing that this was done and
this was done to cover you up.
Okay. So by getting that letter, the beauty that comes with the things you talked about still apply to me. Can I take his name from there on? Can I be able? Am I entitled to his property? Is he entitled to my property? The things that you say that come with marriage. Now is he just mine alone?
In a traditional setup? In a traditional setup, just like I said, traditional marriages are potentially polygamous. They are potentially polygamous.
So
yes, you may own up his name just because the marriage is recognized under the laws of Uganda, but even another woman will own his name.
So we can have that name like 5 of us.
Exactly, it can happen because you are traditionally married and you have to respect the norms that go with the traditional marriage.
So that's why it's important.
Even when it comes to property, the property will be shared amongst all the beneficiaries, amongst you and other women and kids.
So the only way I cure this is go to church.
Exactly. That is the only way you can cure that up.
Okay. So how about people who have been staying together for like 7-10 years and you've not even had the traditional marriage? What's the legality around that?
I would say those people are just in a comfort zone.
What do you mean?
The comfort of being with each other, but there is no legality in that. It's not a marriage.
I'm for you for 10 years and there's nothing.
It's not a marriage. Legally, you are not recognized. You are just staying with a male figure, a male friend.
Even when all my friends and family know I'm staying with you.
It is okay, they know, but you are not his wife. You are not his wife. Even if you have kids with the person, you are not legally married.
So he can die and actually I have nothing.
He can die and actually you will have nothing. And someone will come and put a claim on the property. Maybe the law caters for the kids.
Okay.
The law caters for the kids more in that kind of setup because the kids were not there when you guys were meeting. There were issues of the union. So government protects the kids.
But it doesn't protect the union.
It doesn't protect this person because one would presume that in your right senses, as a reasonable person, you've been staying with this person for 4 years, 6 years, 7 years, and this person has never visited your home. What is the problem? The person has never done anything to cement your love. Why should the law protect you when it comes to that? So the law will only come in to protect your issues out of marriage.
Who are the children?
Who happen to be the children.
So cohabiting, being with someone is actually not anywhere recognized.
Cohabiting is not recognized. Maybe with the laws that are coming in, there are laws that are in a way coming in to protect even those people who have stayed with others. But at the moment, there is nothing much one can benefit in that kind of relationship.
Okay. I hope our viewers have heard and can do something about that. Because sometimes we believe, and I've been told, as long as you've been with the person for 10 years, you're entitled to something.
And people mistake that a lot. They think by staying with a person for long, you're officially married.
Yes,
but andikana okweyita nze mukyala wa gundi.
Kumba mukyala wa
kubanga omaze naye emyaka 6, myaka 7.
Mufumbira buli lunaku.
Okiwulira buwulizi nti oli mukyala. Bujulizi ki ng'oggyeko okubeera mwenna obulaga nti muli mufumbo oba mwafumbirwa. Okakasa nti in that kind of setup nga mubadde mwenna ono bwe yebbirira n'agenda n'abeerako omuntu gw'ayanjula ne bamugatta ne church, ono asobola okuvaayo mu church olemese embaga yaabo.
So if I stay with you for 10 years and you're wedding someone else, I can't actually stop that marriage.
Atotya.
So what are we doing in those 10 years? Wasting each other's time?
Muli awo muli mulaavu, mweyagala, munyumirwa, naye ekintu kye mulimu mwekka mwe abakitegeera. Naye amateeka tegakimanyi.
So people are just there wasting time. And I hope our viewers are seeing. Sometimes we've been misled to believe that, this person is telling me, stay here, as long as I love you. And yet at the end of the day, we actually have nothing out of this.
Kyova olaba omuntu yenna ng'oli mu that kind of arrangement. Obadde n'omuntu omwaka, myaka 2, myaka 3, myaka 4 akugamba nti akwagala nnyo. Okwagala si bigambo. Bw'obanga omuntu omwagala, olina okubeerako n'ebikolwa ebiraga nti omwagala. Ekikolwa ekiraga nti omuntu omwagala si kubeera naye, si kumugulira mmere, si kumuzaala mu baana. Ekikolwa ekiraga nti omuntu ono omwagala nnyo kwe kugenda n'okyala mu bazadde be, n'omusasulayo ne bakuwa obuyinza okubeera naye legale n'omutwala mu church ne babagatta. Awo oli aba mutuufu okugamba nti akola ki? Akwagala.
So if you love that person,
Yes.
you should go all the way and also protect them, because clearly there is no protection if you're just staying with them.
Very true.
If anything happens, your family can just sweep in and take everything.
That is very true.
Wow. Okay. Our viewers, please, if you love your friend, do the traditional marriage and go to church for the safety, but also to prove the love, as Mr. Luteeta is saying.
True.
If you love that person enough, you should go all the way for them. Interesting.
True.
What are the other legalities around marriage?
Of course, kakati mu bufumbo nga mubadde mu bufumbo naddala kakati nga obwa Christian marriage.
Yes.
Mubadde mu bufumbo obwa Christian marriage, ono n'agenda maaso n'agattibwa mu church kubanga mulimu abantu nga you are legally married in church.
Okay.
Eh? And then along the way, your husband or wife gets to meet another person and is like, I'm also going to take this other person to church.
Yes. And what I don't understand is, and that actually happens. People
Yes.
actually remarry.
Yeah, people remarry. Now, the beauty about a church marriage setup, that other marriage, the word in law we use is void ab initio.
Void ab initio.
Void ab initio. It is bad in law. It should not even have happened. Eyo marriage teriyo baba berimba bwerimbi.
So the second marriage is non-existent.
The second marriage is non-existent.
So what happens in a case whereby we've been separated, but we've not divorced, and then someone goes ahead and remarries?
Era eyo marriage ebeera irigo, eba teriyo. In order for you to get another wife, of course, legally in Uganda, there are grounds for divorce.
Okay.
Waliwo grounds for divorce. Wadde mu Christian setups abamu tebaagala biwulira bagamba nti bw'obanga oyingidde bufumbo olina okubeerayo paka.
Death sentence.
Death sentence sometimes bakiyita, and when you're entering into marriage they call it self-imposed imprisonment. Okiyingiddemu okiraba kati byonna by'osangayo bigumire. Own it up. Yes. Own it up. Naye kakati weesanga nti along this walk of marriage wabeerawo ebintu ebiteebereka.
So what are those grounds?
Kakati waliwo omuntu nga wagwa ku muntu ng'obwenzi bumunyokako bunyoosa, yeebaka ne maidi, yeebaka na buli kintu kyonna kyonna ekikyala asobola n'okebera sikaati nga bagize ku waya, ono akigumiikiriza ekyo pakati.
Okay.
So adultery and fornication is a ground for divorce. Ogenda kigumiikiriza pakati. Kati ne wabeerawo ekyokubiri, cruelty. Omusajja n'akkuba n'akufuula eŋŋoma. Buli lwakomawo
I thought beating is a love language.
Ah,
Someone said, I don't know if he loves me if he doesn't beat me.
that is very true actually, bakyogera, but it also depends on the type of beating.
There's the good beating.
There is a good beating.
Which one?
Like a tap on someone's cheek.
Oh, that's not beating.
A tap on someone's cheek. Yes. Naye waliyo oli ajjayo n'ejjambiya n'akutema. Okukuba mukwano ki? Onaamugumiikiriza paka ng'akuggyeeko ensingo. So that also can be a ground for divorce. Adultery, cruelty. The ground endala is after people have been separated for long. Because
you've not been staying together.
You've not been staying together for a long period of time. And that has happened to some couples. They get married and the wife gets a visa and flies, goes off.
Okay.
Over 6 years, you're not hearing from the person. 7 years, you're not hearing from the person. How long are you going to keep in a marriage which is not existent at all? Because you're not staying with the person. So that can be a ground enough for you to separate or for you to petition for divorce. Nicho chikola amakulu. Kubanga mu marriage to bafa nnyo, amateeka gafa nnyo ku the union. The union.
So anything that hinders the union?
Anything that hinders the union, more so those ones that I've talked about, can be a ground for divorce.
But Mr. Luteeta,
Yes.
we are in marriage, as you've said, a Christian marriage. Clearly, as we say the vows, we say till death do us part. Like till death, you should die in this thing. So when you say there are elements when we reach and you should not die in this thing, as Christians we feel we've gone back on our vow that we made.
Yeah, true. Naye, that comes in the following instance. That commitment you make to one another goes with your faith.
Okay.
It goes with your faith. It is between you, him, and your God. But the government will not wait for you to kill each other. That is why the government puts a window for people to get out of the marriage. Government is not going to wait for people to kill each other in the name of faith. For people to murder themselves in the name of faith because they are married, till death do us part. Government put a window.
So these windows actually put by government?
Yeah, the windows are put by government.
And they apply to only the legal part of the marriage?
Yes, they apply to the legal part of the marriage. Yes, please.
So it does not have any implication on the church marriage?
The what?
Like the faith-based, because as you said, these vows are between me and my husband and God. So if we have been registered, because one thing I realized, we have 2 certificates, the church marriages. But we have people who have gone ahead and for them all they have is the government certificate. I think the ones who go to...
And then, by the way, there's a 5th type of marriage which I've forgotten to talk about, is the government marriages, civil marriages.
Just walk in and...
Where you just walk to URSP and you have your 2 witnesses and then a government ties the knot. So there are those kinds of marriages. They're also recognized in Uganda.
But now that one, what safety do I have? Government.
Yeah, government.
If tell him to come.
Government.
Like there is no faith involved in here. It's just government.
It's just government.
What's the plus for that?
The plus for that is that you become legally wedded. It's not costly. I mean, if your parents are agreeable to it, it's okay. It's a walk-in when you're not wedded, walk out when you're wedded. No reception, no what.
Does it need even parental consent for that one?
That one? Yeah, it may need parental consent.
Okay, so that one is easy to get out of.
Yeah, that one is also easy to get out. It's a government arrangement.
Okay, back. Interesting conversation. I think as we come to the end of this show, I want you to just wrap it up for our viewers. As we get into marriage, as we are married, what things should we consider? What things should be dear to us in regards to the legality of marriage? As we close off, what do you want? I want you to tell my viewers something like, as those preparing to get married, but also maybe those who are married, what should we look out for?
Okay, of course, those who are preparing for marriage, it's important to look out for the following. If you've been staying together with the person for long, get out of the comfort zone. If he says he loves you, let him do an act of love. And that act of love is going to visit your parents and then taking you to church. That will be evidence of love enough. Number 2, for any person who is about to enter into marriage, a ministry of marriage, it is important for you to research about the person you are going to get married to. It is important. Because if he is already married in a Christian setting, you are going to get married to him, and that marriage will be void ab initio. It will not be recognized in our laws because he's already married. So it is important to find out about the person you're going to get married to.
Just to pause you there a bit, how do I find out? Maybe if my viewer wants to know, how do I find out if this person is actually married or not?
One of the ways in which you can find out is by inquiring from his parents, getting an elder to go and meet his parents. But you think this person is marrying another person and is going to introduce you to his parents? But these are some of the ways you get an elder to go and meet his parents, to inquire about their son. Number 2, you go to the registry and inquire from the registry of marriages. Is the marriage registered? Is there any marriage that he entered into and it is registered?
Anyone can walk in and ask such questions?
You can ask. You can ask. And if there is none, then you can enter into a marriage. If you enter into that marriage, and he entered into a marriage and it wasn't registered, recognized, and you rush and you register yours first,
you'd be the legal one.
Then you'll be the legal person. Yes, the law is clear. Equity helps the vigilant. Equity usually helps the vigilant.
So if someone went to a church and they forgot to register them,
if you went to a church that is not licensed, I'm talking about someone who those people who got married from churches which do not have licenses, and they didn't even bother to follow up. So if he weds you in a church which is licensed and you can't register it, it will render this whole first setup null and void.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
So those are some of the procedures. Can I send some greetings?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And your parting shots to our viewers.
Yeah, I would like to send my regards to my lovely wife, Nakato Yudaya, and my children, and all the viewers. May the good Lord bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luteeta. And for our viewers, thank you for watching. But I hope that you've heard from Mr. Luteeta the importance of understanding some of these things. I know many a times we leave them for the lawyers or for our land friends, but let us get interested in the small details about our marriages. Is your marriage legal? Find out from your church. Do you have the registered, that certificate? I think it's small and long that is given by the government. Do you have it? If you don't have it, follow up and see that you get it. And also, you've understood the legalities around marriage. Let us know what we're entitled to. As Christians, you've heard about the importance of a Christian marriage. Let us know what is what because of what we have. And from there, we'll have very good marriages. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Fiona Mbowa here at Church of Uganda Family TV, Ring Diaries.